You can choose your language by clicking on the globe icon and selecting Korean or English. Good morning in the United States and good evening in the Republic of Korea, and welcome to our webinar that features a roundtable with General Retired Robert B. Abrams, the KDVA Chairman and President, and our KDVA interns. This is a unique forum in which our interns will discuss current alliance and veterans topics with General Abrams. We will do that for the first part of the webinar. Then in part two, we will transition to talking about the KDVA internship program, or KIP, so that anyone interested in the program can learn more about it. In each session, we look forward to your questions. I am Colonel Retired Steve Lee, the Senior Vice President of KDVA. Let's meet the KDVA interns all over the United States and Korea. Taeyoung Kim, Andrew Kim, Suyong Lee, Jae-woo Byun, and Chae-jun Lee. Also joining us is Miss Erlene Hollerith, the KDVA Vice President of Program and Leadership Support. Erlene is also the director of the KDVA internship program. And finally, we want to thank Mr. David Kim for doing the near simultaneous interpretation. You can write questions at any time using the Q&A tab at the bottom of your screen. Please keep the questions short and relevant to our discussion and address your question to a speaker. This webinar will be available on the KDVA Digital Library and the KDVA YouTube channel in a few days. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we will start part one, our roundtable. The first question for General Abrams is from Taeyoung Kim, who has his BA in Political Science and Diplomacy from Cheongnan National University. He is a former ROK Army translator with the Combined Forces Command Public Affairs Office. Go ahead, please.
Sir, what was your impression of the Republic of Korea before you became the UNC CFC USFK commander? In addition, how did such experience affect your views/perspectives on the ROG, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic?
Well, thanks very much, and it's good to be with all of you this morning. Many people have heard me say this. Until I arrived in Korea in November of 2018, I had never served in Korea. In fact, I think I'd only visited it once, and so now, even though my father had served there and both of my older brothers had served there. I just hadn't even considered Korea. I knew very little, and what I did know, and I'm sad to say this. What I did know was sort of what service was like in Korea in the 70s and 80s, right? What I had heard from my friends, my peers, that was a very, this is long before you were born. This was a very different Korea than Korea today. It's a very, serving in Korea back then, much, much different than it is today. And, so I didn't, I didn't have I'll be honest, I didn't have a very positive impression because I was stuck in the Korea of the 70s and 80s. How did that affect me, later on? Well, my wife and I, we welcomed the opportunity to, have the privilege and honor to serve in Korea as the commander of UNC CFC and U.S. Forces Korea. So we arrived in November of 2018 with a great deal of optimism. And because we had heard, once I knew I'd been nominated to go to Korea, we started talking to people. We started getting really interested in Korea. And, everybody we talked to was like, oh, you're going to love it. There's so much to do. The people are awesome. Transportation's easy. It's a beautiful country. The food is great, on and on and on. We arrived with a great deal of optimism, and we loved every day we served there. Now not every day was a great day. There life happens, and things there was sort of a roller coaster going on when we were serving there, just like it is anywhere else. But we thoroughly enjoyed our time in Korea. It's an amazing country. So much to do. Looking back, my only regret, and I've said this, I have very few regrets. When at the end of as you get near I'm much closer to the end of my life than the beginning of my life. And I'm in good health, but as I get older, you reflect. And when I look at my career and I think back on my career, I only have a couple of regrets. And one of them is I wish I'd served in Korea much earlier in my career. That's my regret. But thanks for the question.
Okay, well, thank you very much. So next is Andrew Kim, who received his BA in history from the University of California in Berkeley and his master's in Korean studies from Seoul National University Graduate School of International Studies. His grandfather is a ROK Korean War veteran, and his uncle served in Daegu. Andrew also is the founder and president of Voices of the Forgotten War Incorporated, where he visits and records his interviews with Korean War veterans. So go ahead, please, Andrew.
Okay, sir, General Abrams, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, I
Okay,
can.
so my question is pertaining to OPCON transfer. So, what is your current updated opinion on wartime operational control transfer? And more specifically, what is your current opinion regarding the progress that the ROK has made regarding the three main conditions of the conditions-based operational control transfer plan and of the timeline of the IOC, FOC, and FMC assessments of the future CFC? And given that FOC assessments are scheduled for 2026, is it possible to finish FMC assessments and to complete OPCON transfer within President Lee or even President Trump's term? Thank you.
Andrew, first off, it's good to see you again. Andrew was sort of my escort. He got the dubious honor of escorting me when I was in Korea, visiting Korea with my wife in September for the Alliance and Veterans Conference and visiting with Korea U.S. Alliance Foundation. And Andrew, I thought we had developed a fairly good relationship. And now you ask me a question that is so broad, it's so deep. I could spend 5 hours talking about this question and trying to respond to your question. So I thought you and I were on better terms. So look, the conditions-based OPCON transition plan, this is just my opinion now. I think it's the least understood topic in everything about the Korea-U.S. alliance. It's the least understood. It's for many reasons, right? And none of them are bad reasons. They're just for many reasons. One of them is the details of this plan are classified. And so there's a responsibility to inform the public, right? Inform the Korean people, inform the United States, public. But we really can't talk about it in detail. So we talk about it in broad brush, hand waves. So that certainly contributes to the lack of understanding. Secondly, the plan has changed, multiple times since the idea first really became public on or about 2005 or six. You can argue about when did we really get serious about talking about it, but certainly by 2007. The plan that's in effect today no way resembles how it started. The way it started was would be, the plan was we would dissolve Combined Forces Command this is the original plan, dissolve Combined Forces Command. All the Korean forces in wartime would be under the command and operational control of the ROK chairman, and the U.S. forces would be a separate force called Korea Command, CORCOM, and remain under the operational control of the CORCOM commander. And they would coordinate their operational actions using a supporting relationship, which has very specific doctrinal definitions. That was the original plan. And then, things changed. We had very high profile attacks by North Korea. The Chonan, the sinking of the Chonan, the shelling of Waipido, the firefights on the northern limit line with patrol boats, et cetera, et cetera. All of those sort of changed the dynamic. And then this discussion became sort of a political, back and forth, and administration's positions changed in both the United States and in Korea. So it's gotten very, very complicated. Decision was made where we are today, right? The plan that's in effect today was envisioned, if you can imagine this, it's terrible, 2010. It took, 3 years or more to negotiate the conditions and the verbiage, and then another 2 years to get it signed, right, at the SCM. So all of that to say, it's very complicated. And I will tell you, Andrew, and I may have told you this when we were driving around in the van, even the name of the plan is misleading, right? We're not transitioning operational control. That's not what the plan is today. The plan is today is that Combined Forces Command will continue to exist. We will merely change the nationality of the commander to a Korean general. The operational control in wartime, the two countries, the United States and the Republic of Korea, will make a decision in accordance with our procedures when to give Combined Forces Command operational control of their nation's forces. So even the name is misleading, right? So what you should be asking me is, hey, when do you think we're going to have a Korean four-star as the commander of Combined Forces Command, and when those three conditions will be met? Well, as I mentioned earlier, Andrew, the program, the conditions, they're classified. The assessment process and all of the subtasks are all classified. And secondly, I'm dated, right? I left there 4 years ago, so I actually have no idea where they are. I just assume that progress has been steadily being made in acquiring critical military capabilities. There's 26 of them. And other elements of that to meet the three conditions. So, and your last question is, given that the FOC assessment is going to be in 2026, do you think it could be done? Well, I don't have enough information to be able to answer that. Here's what I will say. I think that before we get to any final assessments, we ought to meet the bilaterally agreed to standards. We should not rush to failure.
Yep.
We should
Yes.
not rush ahead. We should continue to conduct bilateral assessments and meet those standards. And I think as our current commander has said, General Brunson, we shouldn't take any shortcuts. But in the end, Andrew, I'll leave you with this. Ultimately, this will be a political decision made by our two national command authorities when it's going to happen, when we'll put a Korean general in command of Combined Forces Command. So
Okay.
thank you for that very complicated question.
And thank you, sir, for your very detailed answer. Thank you.
Okay, well, great. Thank you both. Appreciate it. Next will be Soo-Young Lee, who studied at the University of Utah, both in Korea and in the United States. He is majoring in communications. He is also a former Special Forces interpreter and translator with the ROK Special Warfare Command. Soo-Young, please go ahead.
Good morning, sir. If you can meet the second lieutenant of yourself, what advice do you want to provide as a retired general?
This is a great question. I give a lot of talks, and I did while I was on active duty as a general, and I've been asked this question many times, especially when I talk to young audiences. So this will be a much shorter answer. The first thing I'd say is trust your instincts. Um, you have to trust that your pre-commissioning training and your schooling and everything that you've done up to that point and whatever your parents taught you, your life experience to that point, you have built up instincts. Trust your instincts. Secondly, work every day in your craft, right? When you're a second lieutenant, I used to used to drive my officers crazy. You have to admit it, you're an apprentice, right? If you use a tradecraft term, you're an apprentice. You know just enough to be kind of dangerous. Yet you're really, you're going to be leading people. So you have to have the humility to understand that your experience level, your skill level is apprentice level. Work every day to achieve mastery in your craft, whatever it is, whatever branch you're in. And then my last piece of advice is love, embrace, enjoy being a soldier, being around soldiers every day. Just embrace it because those days as a second lieutenant and even as a first lieutenant, they go by way too fast. Young people, I'm guilty of this, by the way. You want it, you want to get more experience. You want to advance. I can't wait to move on to this next thing. Embrace the day. Love every second because there'll come a time when you really, really miss it. And so enjoy every day. So lastly, I said, so that's all on the job. Here's one that as an old guy, I'll tell you. My advice to Second Lieutenant Abrams would be start working on strengthening and conditioning your posterior chain in your body. Spend less time on your anterior chain. Spend more time now working on your posterior chain because life happens, Soo Young, right? Your back, hips, etc. Start working on your posterior chain earlier in life. I didn't wake up until I was in my 40s. So anyway, there you go.
Thank you so
All
much.
right. That's a great 360 advice. So thank you, sir. And thank you, Soo-Young. So next is Cheu Byun, who received his BA in German language and literature and business administration from Korea University. He is a former KATUSA, Korean augmentation to the U.S. Army, and served in the USFK Protocol Office. So Cheu, your question for General Abrams.
Good evening, sir. For young members of the KDVA internship program, who hope to contribute meaningfully to the ROC-US relationship, what kind of skills or perspective do you believe are most important to develop at this stage?
Great question and an easy question to answer. Communications, verbal and written. As you heard in the video from our most recent reunion, we need vocal advocacy for not just the Korea Defense Veterans Association, but for the alliance. Vocal, right? Use your words. Be a spoken advocate. Your voice matters, right? Every voice matters. It's astonishing to me. I've said this, I don't know how many thousands of times. But I live here in the Midwest, right? In the heartland of America. And my neighbors, they don't they when they found out I served in Korea, they said, "We still have troops in Korea?" Right? They're shocked, they're amazed. They really don't know. So job one for us is to be a vocal advocate for the alliance and talking to people one at a time just to inform them, educate them, right, about the importance of the alliance, about Korea and what does it mean. And then secondly is written skills, written communication skills. For those of you who have served, and you're a former Katusa. I love you guys. Um, your written skills, that the writing skills, yeah, that's your new weapon. That pen or your keyboard, that's your weapon, and your ammunition are your words. We need you to write and to be convincing and compelling. Um, and so those two things I think are most critical. That skill set, communication skill sets for all of you are the most important thing that you bring. Thank you for the question.
Thank you for the answer, sir.
So before we go to our final question from Chejun, let me just read a couple of things, comments from a Korean War veteran. Her name is Lois Ray Kuhn. So when I received orders to board the hospital ship USS Haven, I was looking forward to seeing something of the world and did not know anything about Korea as a country or understand war. Once we received once we reached Incheon Bay in late January 1953 and anchored, we were quickly busy receiving wounded by helicopter. That was our life for 8 months, sometimes operating for 2 and 3 days and nights at a time as we treated patients from all our allied countries. We devised a pidgin Korean way of communicating, which was a mix of English, French, and Korean. I consider this experience as a vast learning and growing experience, pivotal in who I am today. And she is in her early 90s, I believe. I am delighted to have this opportunity to join other Korean interested veterans and spread the word. So, as y'all were talking in real time, she was providing her perspective on those words that you and General Abrams talked about. So, thank you very much. And now to Chejun Lee, you have the final question before we go into broader Q&A with our audience. So Chejun received his AI certification from Kyunghee University and exploratory studies from Purdue University. In America, we call it the Boilermakers. Okay. He served in the second ROK Marine Division and was the translator during two joint U.S. Korea military exercises. So, Chejun, please.
Yes, General Abrams, can you hear my voice loud and clear?
I can. Thank you.
All right, I was just checking. General Abrams, sir, may I just say it is an honor to be in your presence and to meet you for the first time. And now, moving on to my question, sir. Um, General Abrams, sir, the total number of active duty troops in the Republic of Korea Armed Forces have fallen from 540,000 in 2019 to 450,000 in 2025 due to a record low number of children being born and a high turnover rate within both enlisted and officer ranks. In your opinion, what danger do you think this issue could pose, and what solutions do you think might be most effective in countering it? In addition to that, do you believe that this worrying trend could prevent the Republic of Korea military from transitioning from a conscription-based military to a professional all-volunteer force?
Well, look, this is thank you for that, and thanks for your service in Second Rock Marine Division.
My pleasure,
Um,
sir.
I've said this a few times, and it's it's not getting the attention that it deserves. Maybe it is in Korea now. I don't know. Personally, I think that the low birth rate. I think Korea's now the lowest. Is got the dubious honor of being number one with a 0.71 birth rate. Um, it's not sustainable. I think it's an existential threat to the Republic of Korea. And and I mean that with all sincerity, that's not hyperbole. That's not an exaggeration. I think it's an existential threat. The estimates I've seen, today the population is somewhere between 50 and 51 million Koreans in Korea. If this doesn't change, if the birth rate doesn't change, the population will be 25 million in by 2050 or 2055, I think. It's not sustainable. And so, you're asking, what's the solution to that? Well, that's a Republic of Korea government question to answer, not for me to answer. As I mentioned earlier, very few Americans know anything about Korea and the importance of the alliance. I was down in Arkansas 2 weekends ago on a hunting trip. We spent some time driving out to a duck blind, and somebody was asking me about Korea and the Korean people and so forth. This topic of birth rate, low birth rate came up, and or they asked me about the biggest threat to Korea, and I said the biggest threat to Korea is not North Korea. The biggest threat to Korea is the low birth rate, and they were like, "What?" And then they asked me, why do you think there's such a low birth rate? So look, and I'm not going to share that with all of you. I have my own opinion as an American. But this is a Korean people problem to solve. It's not going to be solved by international agencies. It's not certainly not going to be solved by Americans. This is for Korea to solve. I'm just making an observation that many people are now starting to wake up to. It's an existential threat. Um, I think the high turnover, and the decision to reduce units and so forth, right? That back then it was Defense Reform 2.0. Everybody was sort of up mad about it, right? How could we possibly cut remove a corps, four divisions, eight brigade size units, regimental size units in the Korean military? Well, you didn't have much of a choice, right? It was a wake up that we couldn't do it anymore. We can't man it and sustain our current force. And I think the bigger impact has been the reduction in the mandatory time in service, right? Before I got there, it was 2 years for conscripts. Now it's down to a year, right?
18 months specifically.
Okay, 18 months. But every time we reduce that, that's what's increasing the turnover. And as you know, when you have turnover like that, it's difficult to maintain readiness, high readiness levels. It's difficult to maintain unit cohesion, right? The cohesion, we're talking about trust inside units. That's the glue that keeps units together. And if you have a high turnover rate, you're not going to have as the units that you do have are not going to be as effective. So it's all feeding on each other. And I certainly think it will be an obstacle on any movement forward to further professionalize the force. But further professionalization, right? Going to an all volunteer professional force, as you know, there's many facets to that. It'll be we'd have to think differently about pay. We'd have to think differently about benefits. And as someone who's been in an all volunteer force his entire career, an all volunteer force is great. We think it provides us an unparalleled advantage and makes us the finest military in the world. That's my opinion, right? Um, it's the special sauce, um, but it's really expensive, right? So that's a Korean people decision. How much do we really want to spend to have that? So, and again, that's Iraq government and Iraq people um, decision. So, um, but the birth rate, that's most alarming. And I think every Korean has a role to play in changing that. You know, I woke up this morning just like you did and looked at my phone, and coincidentally, at the top of my feed was an article on this very topic: low birth rate. Anyway, but um, look, Jae-jun, if you're not married, get married. Choose wisely, get married, have children. That's my advice to you.
Already on it, sir.
All right.
Okay. Way to go, man.
All right. That's fantastic.
Do
All
your
right.
part for Korea.
Affirmative, sir. Anything for Korea.
All righty. So, General Abrams, sir, thank you very much for holding this roundtable discussion with the KDVA interns. Any parting thoughts, sir?
Well, look, first off, on behalf of the Korea Defense Veterans Association, thanks for being an intern with us. We're always looking for young, bright, energetic Koreans, Korean Americans to serve as interns and to support our mission. So thanks for your willingness to step up and be an intern, and thanks for what you're doing every day. Um, your voice does matter. And even if you're just right now helping us with our voice, that's great. Find your own voice. That's what my encouragement to you is. Find your own voice. If you're as passionate about it as I think you are, now's the time to use your words, written and verbally, and help get the word out. And every little bit matters. Lastly, thanks for the great questions today. This excites me when I sort of had an idea of what the flavor of the questions were going to be. That excites me because that means there's people paying attention to the big and the small things associated with the alliance, and that's what we need, right? We need people who are passionate about the alliance and willingness to tackle and discuss the hard topics. So thanks for that, and thanks for joining us today.
Well, thank you so much, sir. We really appreciate your time and spending, the time with the younger generation about the Rock U.S. Alliance. We'll go into our second part now, and that's learning about the KDVA internship program. The session should be particularly interesting to anyone looking to apply for a KDVA internship. We have two types of internships. One is the research assistant internship, and the other is the event management and support internship. I'll ask each intern to provide their thoughts about the internship program, and then we'll take questions from our audience if we have time. So first, we're going to go to Jae-woo. And, what are your overall thoughts about the KDVA internship, and how has your experience been?
First of all, I applied for the research and publication internship,
Mhm.
and the KDV internship really has been a meaningful experience I've had. Having served as a KATUSA in the USFK Protocol Office and worked closely for the ROC US Alliance, I joined this program hoping to remain connected to the ROC US Alliance, and this internship really gave me a structured way to do that. One of the valuable aspects was working directly on alliance-related research and publications. Through writing articles and creating Korea 101 contents, I really think I deepened my understanding of current security issues, veterans affairs, and the broader context of the alliance and Korea and US. It felt meaningful not only for my benefit, but knowing that the work we produced would be used for KDVA's public
Mhm.
outreach. And I also really valued the collaboration among interns. We didn't have a lot of meetings together, but everyone did came from the different academic, as you heard, and
Right.
military backgrounds. And we did share a common interests in the alliance. So having a roundtable meeting with each other, reviewing each other's writing, and discussing alliance
Yes.
issues together helped me really grow in ways I could not have done alone.
Wonderful.
So overall, this internship really helped me stay connected to the Rocky West Alliance community,
Mhm.
while also sharpening my research skills, writing skills, and also teamwork skills. It did reaffirm my interest in continuing to contribute to the relationship between our two countries in whatever capacity I can in the future. Thank you.
Wonderful. That was wonderful. Now, all of our articles, we just published our last journal for 2025, and that is in our digital library on our website. So please, anyone, take a look at the wonderful articles that our a lot of our interns have contributed to. Our 101s are all on our social media outlets as well. So that is all done by our interns, and the articles and the 101s that I've received from all of you have been just really great to read. And I learn quite a bit as well as I'm reading through these articles. So it keeps me up to date on Rock US Alliance topics as well. And all our interns are in the United States all around, as well as in Korea. So anyone that is interested, please, no matter where you are, you can definitely apply for the internship. Thank you so much, Jay. Um, Next, we're going to go to Suyang. So you attended the University of Utah, both Asia campus in Korea and in the United States in Utah as well, and you're majoring in communications. You are also part of the KDVA Campus Club at the University of Utah Asia campus. So tell me, how did you find out about the KCC? And once you joined, tell me about the activities that you participated in with the Campus Club.
Okay, first of all, in fall 2023, I interned at the Office of External and Alumni Relations at the University of Utah Asia campus. At that time, my director set a semester goal, which was founding a KTVA campus club.
Mhm.
As an active KTVA member, I saw this as more than a task. The KTVA's mission is to honor those who served in Korea and strengthen the enduring ROK-US alliance. So, being an American university in South Korea, this alliance was not abstract, as our campus lived its history and purpose every day.
Mhm.
So, after launching the club, our first event was a visit to the War Memorial of Korea in Yongsan.
Mhm.
We studied the Korean War and paid respect to the Korean, American, and the United Nations troops who defended freedom and stability on the peninsula. I personally explained the impact of the veterans and why KTVA remains valuable today, not only remembering the past, but sustaining the alliance's future. And our next activity was hosting a guest speaking session with the U.S. Army retired Major General Tony L. Wright. His perspective helps students learn the U.S. military view of the alliance directly from someone who served at the highest level. And we also supported the annual thank you letter speech contest for Korean War veterans, run by
Mhm.
our office with H2O Pumasi headquarters. Uh, So at the event, our members served as volunteers, ensuring a
Mhm.
welcoming, organized, and secure environment for student contestants, reflecting KTVA's values of honor, service, and intergenerational connection.
Mhm.
So as a founding member, awareness building was challenging, but it was also meaningful. These experiences strengthened my ability to bridge stories, missions, and partnerships. And going forward, I carried the KDV's purpose together for the Rock US Alliance into my leadership and communication work.
Wonderful. That's really great to hear. And seeing the activities with the UAC University of Utah Asia Campus KDVA Campus Club is really exciting to see. I love how you get into the community, and really, it's not just there within your university and students, but it's also going out into the community and bringing everybody together. So that's really wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And then next, we're going to go to Andrew Kim. So, Andrew, your grandfather was a Korean War veteran, and your uncle served in USAG Daegu. And part of your reason for doing the internship was to commemorate and remember them. So, how did this internship help you do that?
Well, it's very interesting because KDVA helped me on a very personal level. It helped me to rediscover my own grandfather's story because, as you know, I was tasked with writing articles for the ROK U.S. Alliance Journal. And for one of the articles, I researched my grandfather's service to the ROK U.S. Alliance after only
Mm-hmm.
hearing tidbits of his service from my parents. And I knew him until he passed away until in 2008, but I was a young kid at the time, so I didn't really know about his service. But this time I requested his military records, these 70-year-old
Okay.
military records
Wow.
from the Military Manpower Administration's office in Seoul and the ROK Ministry of Defense. I also visited the places where he served in Korea, including in Incheon. And through these kind of primary sources, I was able to piece together my grandfather's 70-year-old story.
Wow.
And as you mentioned, my grandfather fought in the Korean War, and he was a member of the ROK's nascent Navy, which served an important supporting role for the U.S. Navy because of its inshore capabilities and knowledge of local waters. So, and I was able to find out more about that by recently interviewing two ROK Navy veterans from that period as well. And the documents I found mentioned that he was born in 1932, but he was actually born in 35, so he was actually only 15 when he enlisted. But he
Oh,
was
wow.
unusually tall, so he could pass off as 18 and
Mm-hmm.
enlist. And after the war and after serving in the Navy for 5 years, he served as a civilian staff member of the U.S. 8th Army at Camp Market in Incheon and in the U.S. Bases in Daegu. And so he served for over 15 years, the U.S. 8th Army, and per the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1965, this qualified him to receive a special immigrant visa and to relocate to the States. So our family's American dream was in large part made possible by his service to the Iraq U.S. alliance. So I was able to rediscover that history. And in addition to helping me to find my grandfather's story, my work with KDVA Korea region helped me to commemorate ROK U.S. service members like more in person. So I was invited to speak on behalf of KDVA at the 75th anniversary commemoration of the Battle of Masan. And I
Mm-hmm.
was also invited to attend similar ceremonies in Daegu and in Busan as well. So I was able to also visit Pyeongtaek's Camp Humphrey twice, including being invited to the new 8th Army Commander General Hilbert's Assumption of Command ceremony in October. And separate
Mm-hmm.
from KDVA, I, as you mentioned, started my own nonprofit organization,
Right.
Voices of the Forgotten War. And I sporadically interview Korean War veterans across California and Korea during my undergraduate years at UC Berkeley and my graduate years in Korea. But recently, after graduating this year, I devoted more time to this project. So I
Mm-hmm.
now have a YouTube channel also
Oh,
titled Voices of
great.
the Forgotten War. Voices of the
Great.
Forgotten War. And I've interviewed around 30 veterans since 30 additional veterans since June. And in order to do so, I went to Suwon, Gwangju, Busan,
Mm-hmm.
Changwon,
Mm-hmm.
Iksan, Daegu, Daejeon, Pyeongtaek, and other cities as well to interview veterans. So I've been able to devote a lot of time to commemorating Korean War veterans and like my grandfather, and KDVA definitely helped me a lot to accomplish this goal more comprehensively. So I thank you so much for that opportunity.
Well, that's wonderful. That is a lot of activities that you've done, and I'm glad that KDVA can be a way for you to stay connected with the Korean War veterans and just with the Alliance in general. So thank you so much, Andrew.
Thank you.
Next, we'll go to Daeyoung Kim. So, in addition to being an intern, you're also on the KDVA language team, translating various things like some of our announcements, our articles for our KDVA journal, which is both in English and Korean. How did the internship and being on the language team work with your busy schedule?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for the question. And I think it was possible thanks to my time management skills. Because during my daily schedule, I usually spend my time studying and preparing for the Foreign Service exam because since I am currently aspiring to get into the ROC Ministry of Foreign Affairs, MOFA.
Hmm.
So, and after finish my own schedule, like studying, etc., I've worked on the KTVA translation tasks that are assigned to me, both translating the announcements, articles in Korean and English, and vice versa, and in both in an accurate and timely manner.
Hmm.
So the way I accomplish my translation assignments while dealing with my own personal schedule really greatly improved my ability to manage time, and I hope that kind of skill could be beneficial for my future career when
Hmm.
eventually become a diplomat in the future.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I hope that it was interesting for you to read some of the articles before it got published as well, and kind of get an insight to what our journals would look like. So we really appreciate all the time and effort that you've put into helping out on the language team as a volunteer. So thank you very much, Dan. And
Thank
then
you.
lastly, Jejun Lee. So you served as a ROC Marine and worked closely with the United States military. How has this internship helped you in continuing your connection with the ROC US Alliance?
Yes, Sir Lean, thank you very much for your question. Um, I think the KDVA internship helped me stay connected with my military experience and still learn something new from it even years after getting out. It also helped me build new relationships with the wider community of supporters of the Alliance, as well as veterans from both the US and Korea, and stay in touch with them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, More importantly, I think the internship gave me a chance to think deeply and reflect about what contributions I might have made, not just to the defense of my country, but to the US ROC Alliance as a whole. It made me look back on experiences that I would not have thought of much otherwise. And I came to a lot of eye-opening realizations because of them. For example, the internship helped me realize what it really took to make sure that a country of about 52 million people stayed safe and protected. It made me appreciate the privilege of not having to wake up to a massive missile attack at 4 a.m. in the morning or fear a nuclear strike from a saber-rattling rogue state for a neighbor. By thinking back to my old Marine days of running around like a headless chicken in an operations room, translating messages, relaying orders, or panting like a dog trying to catch up to my US jarhead counterparts in a hot field, it really helped me see that behind the curtains lie an unimaginable scale of planning, logistics, and coordination, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
glad to have played a small part in it.
Wonderful. What a wonderful answer. That's really great to see um, that KDBA has helped you see behind the scenes as well, and I hope that you will continue doing what you're doing. So thank you so much. So any wanted to see now it's we're opening the floor for any questions from the audience, and let me just check and see if there are any. Okay. So one of the questions that I wanted to ask is, why do you think more people in their 20s don't join organizations or do volunteer work? So I'll go to Chewu.
Sorry, could you repeat the question again, Arlene?
Sure, sure. Why do you think more people in their 20s don't join organizations or do volunteer work?
Um, for as a Korean, I think it's very different. Could be very different answer for Korean and the U.S.
Okay.
People in their 20s. Um, as a Korean person, as a Korean, I would say that a lot of students or college students or just graduated college students don't join the big organization because they are afraid that they might not enjoy their life fully after joining the organization in Korea, particularly because there is a very less work-life balance in Korea. We have to work late all the time, and we a lot of young generation wants to live a life a little in their 20s. Maybe that could be one reason. And another reason is already like General Abrams already said that we have a very low birth rate. And because of that, the competition in Korea is very severe. A lot of companies, because of the AI development, a lot of companies, big companies, organizations are cutting off, firing people because they don't need people anymore.
Mm,
AI is handling everything. So there's a big competition and just only a few talented or lucky people going to the organization. And maybe they're just tired of just applying for the job and get rejected all the time.
mm.
And I think it's a problem, but it's also a problem that we could try to solve, trying harder to actually overcome this problem.
Okay, okay. And just real quickly, let me ask the same thing to Suyong. So again, do you agree with Jaewoo, or what other opinions do you have about people in their 20s not joining organizations or doing volunteer work?
Yeah, I generally agree with Daewoo. Um, Also, as a Korean, I think like people in like they're mostly like university students. I think they have like tendency to pursue what they think it is meaningful for their future instead of like just like joining the random organizations
Mm,
or the volunteer groups. And I also think that um they they pursue they want to pursue profits from what they from their activities instead of the experiences. So
okay.
since like they have since they're like they only have a limited options to acquire the profit or benefit,
Mm-hmm.
I think I think because of that they're reluctant to kind of join the organizations or to the volunteer works.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time. Oh, Chejun, did you want to say something?
Yes, Erlene. I would like to elaborate on Jay Woo's as well as Su Young's points. I thought about your question and why, and I wondered about why people my age or people in their 20s might not be involved in this type of activism or volunteerism in general. Well, I think I would also agree with Jay Woo's point that a lot of Korean youth would rather focus on their academics or simply not have enough time because of academics. But I think it is also because that a lot of Korean youth might simply not be interested in volunteerism in general. In other words, a lot of people in their 20s might be focused more on paid efforts or
Mm-hmm.
paid labor. If they don't get anything in return, if they don't have some kind of incentive, they just might think that it's just not worth the hassle of, writing articles or translating them. I
Okay.
also think there is a bit of a stigma on getting involved in this type of activity. Um, for viewers in the United States, in Seoul, there is often a crowd of elderly people that would crowd around in the Capitol waving the Star Spangled, waving the US flag and the Korean flag, preaching all kinds of political viewpoints and soapboxing in general. I think that a lot of young people might be afraid of being associated with those types of people, especially when they get involved with groups like the KTVA. They just don't want to, give people the wrong impression that they might be, uh, overly political people, if you get what I mean.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you so much for your point of view, and I'll hand it over to Steve.
Okay, so really great discussions, and we thank General Abrams for participating, and thank you all as interns. So, volunteers that research projects, write articles, conduct interviews, support events, and most importantly, they work on and share their passion and love for the Alliance and our veterans. So the application deadline for the next KDVA internship class is December 8th. So please go to kdva.vet, that's VET, to apply. And so as we move forward, KDVA remains committed to advancing, working with the younger generations, and reinforcing the strength of our alliance in a non-political, non-controversial way. So here's a brief look at what we've accomplished and what lies ahead. So in 2025, KDVA went over 55,000 members and 120,000 social media followers. So another great year of growth. And thanks to KUSEF, our main fundraiser, and our members. We opened chapters in the United States and Pennsylvania, the New York City metro area, and Texas, as well as 3 additional KDVA campus clubs. With the Korean Ministry of Patriots and Veterans Affairs sponsorship, we conducted the annual Korea Visit program, as well as our annual KDVA reunion. This year, as you saw in the video, was in San Diego. In 2026, we are looking forward to the KDVA reunion here in Washington, D.C. So consider joining KDVA. Again, it's free, only takes a few minutes, and again, non-political and non-controversial. So details for everything is available at kdva.vet, V-E-T. And we do all of this, as was mentioned a couple of times, in the KDVA motto of together for the ROK US Alliance. So thank you, everyone. Really appreciate you joining for our panelists as well as those in our audience. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.